Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be probably a little bit of a long one. If you like a long one, then leave your favourite fruit or veg emoji in the comments below. I'm going to be talking about things that I've learned in my fragrance journey. So I've been reviewing perfumes, fragrances on YouTube for about 8 years now. And along the way, I've definitely evolved, changed, grown, and I thought I'd share with you some of the things that I've learnt along the way. One thing I always remember, and this isn't going back that far actually, I was talking to Miguel Matos, who is the writer or one of the writers and the editors at Fragrantica, also now is a perfumer in his own right. And I remember speaking to him and he said to me how important it is for a reviewer to understand the ingredients that they're talking about in perfumery. And that really hit home with me because I feel like I'd maybe been a bit lazy up to that point in really learning about ingredients and understanding the ingredients. And since then I have put in much more effort into understanding the ingredients and how they should smell. I often will, if I come across something new that I don't know, I will look up what it's supposed to smell like, and if I can find that smell in real life, so for example if it's a particular spice, maybe I can find it at the supermarket, but I will try and, or I may even well have it, you know, sometimes you read about a spice and then you think, oh, I'm not quite sure what that smells like. You might have it in your cupboard, like herbs for example. There's loads of different herbs. Fennel can smell sort of aniseedic, but it's really good to just go to the spice cupboard and refresh your memory of scents and things like that. So I've been making a lot more effort these last few years just to understand smells in general and learn a bit more about them. I have in the past bought ingredients so that I was able to smell some different perfumery materials like hedione and labdanum, benzoin, that kind of thing. It's another option. You can find these things sometimes on eBay, or there are perfumer suppliers that are happy to sell smaller amounts of perfume materials. It's a good idea to try and get hold of some materials for yourself to just get an understanding, maybe even have a little play at making your own perfume just for fun, which I've done as well. Another thing I've done in that respect is a full 160 Tuesdays workshop where I got to smell all the materials and mess around and make my own perfume and soak up all the knowledge and experience of Sarah McCartney, who is a perfumer at the brand. And there are other companies that offer similar things. You can even do distance learning with perfume materials. So that kind of thing, I think, if you're really serious, is worth the time and effort to just to really up your game, up your knowledge. Even if you don't intend to write or review in any way, if you really love perfume, you're only going to gain from it. You're only going to just learn more and then appreciate perfumes even more and experience them on a bigger level. I've become aware of my vocabulary and it's very difficult to talk about perfume. It's very difficult to describe a scent. It's not easy. It's really not easy. And that's something that I'm always trying to improve on. It's so easy to get stuck in using the same terms all the time. So I'm aware of, you know, you say powdery, but perfumes that are powdery can still vary very much. They can they can differ very much. So I'm trying to be more elaborate in how I describe things, not in a poncy way, but just to elaborate a little bit more on how powdery something is. So is it very finely milled, fluffy powdery, or is there more grip to it? You can use textures, and you can use how moist something is, how dry something is. There's so many things you can do to explain a perfume, but it can sometimes prove difficult to find the right words to explain a perfume. It's really difficult. So I've been working on my vocabulary. I think it just makes for a slightly more interesting review than saying that it's, you know, powdery or whatever. Another thing I've learned is that I don't really need cheapies in my collection. And I think every frag head, when you first start out your journey, you go off in so many different tangents and directions. And I went through a little bit of a phase of buying cheapies, partly because I wanted to do videos on cheapies, and partly because I kind of rationalised I need some cheapies to spray for work and just like all the time, and then I'll save the better stuff for best. But if you're building a collection, if you're having more than 10 perfume bottles, you don't need super cheapies unless you love that particular smell. But I found that my cheapies were just getting no love whatsoever because they weren't as special to me as my more expensive perfumes. So in the end, I've done away with them. The same goes for clones. I don't need clones. There's only one clone in my collection at the moment that I really love and use, and that's Amarena Cherry by Fragranza, which is a Tom Ford Lost Cherry dupe, and it actually to me is way better than Lost Cherry, which on me didn't last very long. It felt very flat, it lost its voluptuousness after about 20 minutes, whereas Amarena Cherry is beautiful and has great transition and lasts really, really well and is amazing performance. And apart from that though, a lot of the clones, I did go through a stage of buying Perfume Parlor. This is way before Dua ever came out with anything. I was buying quite a lot of Perfume Parlor stuff, and it was part of my journey. I think it was necessary. I bought a lot of things to get an idea of what the more expensive option might smell like, but in the end they got no love from me. They were just used as air fresheners, given away, because I just didn't want to wear them. There was part of me that just didn't feel like I wanted to wear any of the clones. Clones just don't really do it for me, and also I really hate the oil slick that so many of them give you. Yeah, I think it was something that I explored, but I'm done now. I'm completely done with it. I like the artistry of perfumery and the creativity of it, and copycatting something. I'm not one of these people that's mega against it. I'm on the fence. Everyone should do what they want to do, but for me, I'm over clones really. And what I've learned is to trust my nose. Anyone that wants to talk about fragrances, however they want to talk about fragrances, whether it be on Instagram, YouTube, as a written blog, if you're going to talk about fragrances, you really need to learn to trust your nose. And that means don't just rely on the list of notes that you see on the company's website or Fragrantica. You really do need to start investigating with your own nose. The way that I do that is I ask myself questions when I smell something, because sometimes you can't pinpoint what you're smelling. You just can't get to it in your head. So I ask myself questions. Is it sweet? How sweet is it? Where do I think that sweetness is coming from? Is it sugary? Is it vanilla-y? Is it a sweet floral? And is it spicy? What sort of spice? Is it hot? Is it cool? Is it fresh? I ask myself all these questions, and then you can start to guide yourself to what you're smelling. And I also challenge myself. So I rarely look at the notes when I'm testing something for the first time. I like to challenge myself and say to myself, what can you pick out? And see what I can pick out. And often I can get a few things. I certainly can't get everything. and sometimes I'm wrong. I can mix up my lilies with my orchids and peonies and roses, and sometimes can't even pick out a floral in a massive bouquet of florals. But I'm challenging myself all the time, and I do feel like I have improved over the years. So trust your nose. Also, when you see a note listing and it looks really simple, maybe they only list 3 notes, it doesn't mean that the fragrance has only got 3 notes in it. It simply means that that is what the marketing team want to tell you about. So doesn't mean the fragrance is going to be simple. It could be the most complex fragrance in the world. Note listings are only a guide for people to get an idea of how something smells. They are not a complete listing of all the different scents that you're going to get. And another thing about note listings, they usually are a pyramid. You have top, middle and base notes, as you'll know. But just because certain things are in the top, certain things are in the middle, certain things in the base, that does not mean you're going to smell them in that exact order. Generally speaking, the top notes are always going to be the lighter things like the citruses. The mid notes are going to be those mid-heavy. There might be florals, there might be woods. And then the base notes are the fragrance, the compounds that will hang around longest, that are heavier, that stick to the skin better. Generally speaking, they might be sweeter, darker type notes, things like tobacco and vanilla and amber, the resins and all that kind of stuff. But that doesn't mean if you see a top note of lemon, a mid note of rose and a base note of patchouli, when you spray that perfume, you're probably going to smell the patchouli straight away. And you might even smell that mid note as well, a little bit. But your top note will generally dissipate the quickest, if that makes sense. So what I'm trying to say is, what I've learned is that note listings are not to be trusted. Note listings are there as a very vague guideline, and you can never know for a fact whether you're going to like something or not, because they're not going to be a complete. Notes are not ingredients. So notes are how it's supposed to smell. You're supposed to be able to pick out this, that and the other, but the ingredients could be completely different and have nothing to do with the notes. And perfumers will put things in perfumes that you don't know about. So you could pick a perfume and you say, I can blind buy that because I like all the ingredients or all the notes, but actually when you spray it, the perfumer or the company didn't list maybe a note of cumin or something, and then when you spray it, you smell something that smells a little bit like curry / body odor, and you wonder where the hell that came from, because it's not lemon, rose or patchouli. So note listings, they are just a mere guide, and if you are looking to review perfumes, then it's really good to know that they are not a comprehensive list. They are just a very, very vague guide. You are highly unlikely to get all of the notes in the order that they are listed on the pyramid. It's almost impossible, because you will smell all the other stuff at the same time as well. So note listings are not ingredients. Synthetics get a really bad rap, but I learned quite early on that synthetics are quite important in modern perfumery to help give things a lift, to help diffuse things, to help things last longer on the skin. And also synthetics get a bad rap as if they are dangerous or going to cause you allergies. Generally speaking, naturals are going to be a lot higher in allergens and are going to give you more problems than any synthetics will. If you think about synthetic odor molecules, they're created in a lab to go into products to go on the skin. So the scientists or the chemists are not going to be creating things from the offset with allergens because they know that that's just not going to be usable. Synthetics for the most part can be used in much higher concentrations on the skin than naturals. Naturals are still chemicals. That's another thing. People say that, oh, I don't want any chemicals, I just want a natural perfume. Guess what? Everything is chemicals. That's something I learnt from Sarah McCartney. Everything is chemicals. So to say I don't want chemicals, basically you need to disappear. I'm just going to veer onto the world of YouTube, and one thing that I learned along the way is you don't have to do things the way other people do things. YouTube videos are not painting by numbers that everyone needs to copy everyone else. So when I did a list video, when I was sort of going back a while, my list videos, I felt that I had to kind of follow a similar format to other YouTubers, or even some of my reviews. I would go a bit too much into detail about occasions you should wear things, seasons, age appropriateness, and none of that actually is that important to me at all, and I don't feel like it's that important to anyone else either. If you explain how a fragrance smells, in my opinion, the viewer can figure out whether it will work for them and what situations they would use that perfume in. I don't think anyone needs to be told how old you should be to wear something or what situation. Sometimes it helps to give an idea to say, oh, this is probably more of a work scent because it's mass appealing. But apart from that, I don't think people need to be told when and where and how many sprays. Just doesn't need to happen. So I've changed quite a bit in that respect, and I talk about what I want to talk about and describe the scent to the best of my knowledge or the best of my ability. Here's a shocker. Performance really doesn't matter that much. I've really changed tack on that one. So early doors, before, when I wasn't used to spending so much money on a perfume, it was really important to me that an expensive bottle of perfume lasted the entire day and performed. It jumped off my skin. And now I've got quite a decent collection. I'm not sure how many bottles I'm on at the moment, but we're probably still around the 140 mark, 140 bottles of perfume. And to me, I'm never gonna run out. I've got so much. I don't want something that's really, really weak, that's only going to last 2 hours, because to me it's just a pain in the arse to have to worry about carrying a decan or whatever. And I wouldn't want to spend a lot of money on something that died after 2 hours, and I still stand by that. But performance used to be that important to me, and now it's only that important. So I think that's something that happens over time, and as you build your collection, you realise that as long as you can get what you're happy with out of a perfume, it's more about how much do you love that perfume. That's the most important thing to me. So I think that everyone has their own performance to cost ratio, and I mean, I couldn't put mine into a mathematical equation, but I would say I probably wouldn't ever want to buy any perfume that didn't last more than 2 hours, unless it was a cologne style thing. But if I really, really love something and it only lasts 4 hours, I can probably be persuaded to do that. But if it was £200 a bottle, I might decide not to. So yeah, but performance for me now is not as big a deal as it used to be. That's what I'm saying. Something else that's become very apparent is that fancy bottles do not equal quality fragrance. There's some super fancy pants bottles out there, absolutely stunning, bling-tastic, beautiful bottles that contain shit perfume, and there are companies out there that are, in my opinion, absolutely taking the mickey out of people. But there's a market for it, and some people want that beautiful bottle, and I do get that. But for me, the bottle might grab my attention, but at the end of the day, it's the perfume that I'm wearing all day, and that's the most important thing to me. So I'm just not that bothered about bottles so much. And I do think that there's a lot of companies out there that really take the mickey by they throw all their money and everything they've got at the bottle, and the juice inside is lackluster. I've also learned I'm not very easily satisfied. I am fussy. I am so fussy these days. It's ridiculous. And I think I always have been to a degree, but the more and more I smell, the more dissatisfied I get with what I consider to be lazy compositions that are so heavily reliant on those very mass appealing, well loved molecules such as ambroxan and isoe super. You can see some perfumes that absolutely rely on those molecules to save them, and had they not been there, the fragrance would die a death very quickly. The nice top notes maybe disappear so quickly and just leave behind a watery isoe super, and it drives me mental. It really does. But I know that I'm really fussy. I am really fussy. Isoe super smells great, ambroxan smells great, but I just don't want, I want more. I just want more. I want to be able to smell beautiful quality ingredients blended with love. I want passion. I want to understand a little bit of the perfumer's inspiration, reason behind creating the fragrance. So many fragrances seem to have just been thrown together just to be mass appealing, just to sell, and they're soulless. And I'm just, I want more, I need more. I've become quite a tough customer, I guess. Another thing I've learned, you can't try everything. You cannot physically try everything. Perfumes are being created every single day. New perfumes, you look at Fragrantica, every single day new perfumes are on the database. New articles about new houses being created, new brands, whole new lines suddenly launching. You cannot try it all. And that's something that I still struggle with. I find myself putting things in my basket all the time. But here's the thing that I've learned. Patience is your friend. So even if I find myself putting something in my basket, I make myself take half a day to think about it. I make myself come out of the website, go and do something else, and more often than not it prevents me from going ahead and buying, whether it be a sample pack or whatever, because you cannot try it all. And the world is full of perfumes, and I think the thing is, it can be really difficult if you want to you want to get on and try something that's on the hype train, especially if some things are from different countries and you have to add on the shipping and customs, and do you want to spend all your money on perfume, or do you want to also manage to pay your bills and go on holiday here and there, maybe even do a food shop here and there? So having restraint can be difficult when you really get embroiled in a hobby like this, and that's why I say patience is your friend. And even if you've really fallen in love with a fragrance, you feel like you need it in your life, again, patience is your friend. This is the thing I've learned. You don't need to buy any perfume immediately. You can take your time. You can watch out for it. See if it comes up on eBay or another auction type site. See if it comes up on Facebook groups. Facebook groups are your friends, because as long as you're into Facebook, as long as you're on Facebook, you can get to know people in the fragrance Facebook groups, and you learn who you can trust. You build relationships, you can do swaps, you can get samples from each other, and it's absolutely fantastic. What I've learned to do is to be a little bit patient about what I want. Not always, I still can be a little bit impetuous, but I try to be patient, and usually at some point the thing that I want will come up at a good price, and I would rather buy things secondhand. I wouldn't buy certain things from eBay. So for example, Tom Fords and Creeds are copied all the time. There's a lot of fakes out there. That's why, again, Facebook's great, because you learn who you can trust. You can get people to vouch for people, and just getting to know your community and making friends. That's the best way. You can then do swapping and buying and selling in a much more safer manner than with a stranger on eBay. But patience is definitely a virtue in Fragcom. Another thing with patience is when it comes to actually testing fragrances. I know once I had all the samples from Francesca Bianchi, and I put sort of one spray of one here, a different spray of one here, and I had them all over me. And Francesca Bianchi fragrances are ridiculously complicated. They are really unusual, and I ended up sort of saying to myself, I don't think I really love any of these, but I simply had overwhelmed myself. I put them away and came back to them probably a couple of months later, and that's when I fell in love. And I just did one at a time, and that's when I fell in love with the Lover's Tale. And so yeah, patience. Don't smell everything at once. You won't do yourself any favours, and that's definitely something. Although I still do it, I still sometimes get a sample pack and spray every one of them on a bit of paper, but I know that I need to come back to them and take more time over them. And of course, the other thing with patience is allowing things to develop properly on your skin, because perfume changes. It can change drastically. You can fall in love with the top notes of a fragrance, and within half an hour you can hate it and find it to be an absolute scrubber. You really need to take your time with perfume. Let it sit on your skin and wear it a couple of times before you go and make a purchase, because you can change your mind. You can notice things that you didn't notice before, and sometimes just the temperature, your environment, all these things can just make slight changes to how you experience that perfume. Patience, patience, patience. And finally, I'm just going to touch on trolls really quickly. If you do decide to put yourself out there on YouTube or Instagram, then you are possibly at some point going to experience negativity from someone, and the only thing I would say about that is don't feed the trolls. The best thing you can do is ignore. If it's nasty, you can delete and block. And remember that a troll is only putting out a reflection of their own lack or self-loathing. So when someone says something nasty about you, it will be a reflection of them and nothing about you at all. It's not to do with you. When someone says something nasty, and this goes to life in general, if someone says something nasty or negative about someone else, it's actually only showing the world what kind of person they are, and that is it. That's what they're doing, and they are simply displaying their own sense of lack, their own lack mindset, or their self-loathing, their lack of self-love. So try not to take it personally. All interaction is good interaction. Someone's paying you attention, see it as positive, feel sorry for the person that clearly hates themselves or something about their lives, and then delete, block, move on, and look at all the nice comments, because you probably have loads and loads of really nice comments. See those, don't see the bad stuff. So that's it. Sorry that it is a 30-minute video. I did tell you it's going to be long. Let me know in the comments if any of this resonated with you. Where are you at in your fragrance journey? Have you got any pearls of wisdom that you'd like to share? And I will see you in the next video.